So with this one we're almost going to finish with the lobby. I say almost because there's a few stuff that you can handle, but it's usually best to leave it on the final stages of your game, because it has to do with changing, or well, a little bit more optimized way to handle the way you sync strings and stuff like that. Okay, but for most of the purposes we're going to see in the video, yeah, we're pretty much done. So I'm going to create a host. I have the second build on the second monitor, and I'm going to create the host from over there. Create. Okay, and I'm going to hit join. The bug still persists even in 6.1. The bug that the characters sometimes they don't show. Right now we're going to also sync the weapon modes and the actual weapons, and of course we also have the characters, but I forgot to change the character in the second one. Okay, the host, that is the second screen, has the weapons you see over here, which is basically the AKM with a hollow sight. And if Unity was kind enough that it wasn't bugged, you will see that both of these guys have basically different weapons. Well, the secondary weapon is the same. If I change my character, the second one, I'm going to get the M4 with an iron sight, and I'm also going to change the secondary weapon. Click back, you will see that we're going to sync across. Well, actually in this case the secondary weapons didn't actually change. We'll see what this why this happened. Okay, so basically the major difference we're going to do, and now they have the same weapons. Let's change again. Let's go with the AKM and hollow sight, just for variety's sake. Okay, and yeah, another bug. You can see that it has the different weapons. So the main idea with this is that we're no longer going to sync the weapon or the weapon ID just by itself. We're going to piggyback all the information we need to pass through the network with you know, in a single sync variable, one for the main weapon and one for the secondary weapon. Okay, and of course the model and player name. If you want to be, you know, a little bit more dangerous, you can stack all of them together and pass all that, you know, pass only a single string over the network. Because we're not going to do this all the time, it doesn't really matter, because we're only going to pass this you know, well, once every time we need to change a weapon. To change a weapon, for example, we can go into the loadout scene. We're going to bring forth the loadout, well, the weapon mode scene. I did a few changes. Basically, I just added a quad in the background with a point light, and the camera is going to be hard-coded in this place. Okay, apart from that, the only changes is when you're clicking back, and let's click back, or let's select an M4. Let's go with iron sight and click back. Okay, removes the previous, and now we have our character again. And if we select our lobby players, you can see that this is the host and this is us. So, as I was saying, yeah, the main idea is that we have our main weapon sync and our secondary weapon sync. And if they have any modes, we're going to be stacking them like this, and then we're going to be syncing that over the network and then decrypting it, although it's not really an encryption, it's just packed together. We're just going to break down the data every time we have a slash or backslash or whatever this one is. Okay, and we're going to take the IDs from there. Now, the only thing you have to keep in mind is that, of course, strings cannot be huge, and there's also going to be a limit how much you're going to be passing through the network. Okay, that never changes, and that limit is basically set up from UNet side, okay, because you know, they have to have limits how much you can send, otherwise they're just going to desync you. And yeah, the chances you'll be getting that you'll be reaching that limit, of course, are, you know, very slim. Just use smaller names if you have a problem like that, but you're probably not going to have one. Now, the other thing which we're never going to see, because we're never going to reach and we disconnect, okay, which we're never going to reach at that level in these videos, because you have to actually, you know, finish the whole game, is that we want to, instead of passing strings, we're going to be make a lookup table, and instead of strings we'll be passing integers, and that integer is going to go and reflect to a string, okay, because a string is much more smaller than an integer is much more smaller than a string to pass over the network. Okay, so let's start, because we have a lot to cover. We got very much a lot of stuff to cover. So the first thing we're going to see is the changes on all the scripts you can see over here, apart from the state manager, which won't need. Decision master is the same. We have all this stuff we need to check, and I'm also going to open a bookmark window just in case I forgot something. So on the lobby player, we had, as you remember, we had on the top we had our sync variables. Now we're going to change the main weapon. We're just going to add the sync, and everywhere you get an error, that means you're going to have to change them. And we're also going to broadcast the levels a little bit different, so we're just going to cover the whole lobby player from the start. The sync variable is going to be what we're using to broadcasting the level. Of course, the server is going to be responsible who, you know, selecting the level. And we have this, so every time we have a hook for our target level, and every time this changes, it's going to also run this function, which of course is a CMD, that all it does is broadcasting the level. So it just runs an RPC, and all your target levels is going to assign you a level. The player name, of course, this stays the same. We're still going to be just assigning random numbers for now. We have our model, we have the main weapon sync and the secondary weapon sync, and here we have them on, you know, this is you can call this the raw format or whatever, and this is the actual IDs we're going to be using and we're going to be populating. With this way, we pretty much save a lot of trouble trying to sync all lists, you know, entire lists through the network. So just stack it into a single one and then break it apart. Okay, I think it's the best course of action. Okay, on client and the lobby. On client and the lobby runs on everybody whenever somebody enters the lobby. If it's not the first guy that enters the lobby, that means he's probably the host, then that means he's going to be a client, and that means that they're going to be adding the variables they're going to be adding. If he's not the first guy, or if he's not the host, then he will already have this populated, well, some of them. So if he's the server or client or the lobby, we're going to get our match settings, and we're going to get the target level. We were doing this, but we were doing this before inside the multiplayer sync. Now we want to handle everything from the lobby, because we also want to be able to change them, you know, in case we need to also change them. So we have our target level. We find it integer at map name. Okay, we're broadcasting the level. That means we know that everybody's going to have the same sync, the same level. They're going to also load the same level. Now, if the model is null, that means he's actually the lockup player. And the trick over here is that on this states, the lobby player doesn't actually know that if he's the lobby player or not. Okay, so UNet first creates your characters, or well, the lobby players, and then on a second pass, or you can think of it as on a second frame, well, the execution order is first runs on client header lobby and then runs on start local player. So that means that it doesn't yet know that this is the local player or not. That brings up a problem, okay, with the way we're going to handle things. But the easiest way to handle this is that check if the model is null. Okay, then that means it hasn't yet the lobby player hasn't yet initialized, because it's a sync variable. If it's a previous player that was inside the lobby, then this is not going to be it's not going to be null. Okay, so we're just checking if he's null, then we're not doing anything, we're just waiting to sync everything with on start local player. Okay, otherwise sync the player, which is a new class when you are actually syncing the player, which basically has main weapon, secondary weapon and model, and this has to do this is the packed version. The player actual is the actual IDs we are using. Okay, so it takes basically the main weapon syncs, okay, and it's going to read the actual data. Well, you can skip the part of the sync. Okay, it's just I think it's just a little bit easier to use the read data and just pass it with the sync player. Okay, and the read data is basically responsible into breaking the data apart. We'll see this in a bit. And then we have our actual weapon, secondary actual, our main weapon modes, secondary weapon modes. Okay, we're adding a character to the lobby scene, and we're also creating the actual character. Add lobby player is the UI. Load multiplayer character is going to be the actual character we are seeing inside our scene. Okay, and we then a few more changes to this. So this, you're passing the lobby player, the entire game object, and true or false is going to be if it's the local player or not. Of course, it's not the local player, okay, because if it's the local player, it's not going to run and to come over here. It's going to be false. Now, read data. It's something similar we've seen on the lobby, on where we're trying to join a scene, a game. Okay, so basically it just creates a new class of player actual. It's going to take the main string we have, okay, which is our main weapon. It's going to split it every time it finds two slashes, and of course it's going to remove empty entries or not, and then it's going to create a list, and it's just simply going to find everything that it's not the first one. The first one will always be your weapon, the actual weapon, and everything after that is going to be an attached weapon mode. So you can have as many modes as you want. Everything that is inside the list is going to be an active mode. The same thing for the secondary weapon. Okay, it basically just breaks apart the string we're passing into smaller chunks and just add the modes to a list, and you can also pass the model over here, and then it's going to return you the player, or well, the new player actual, which that basically just contains main weapon, secondary weapon, and the list. So just like that, we don't have to worry about bringing syncing lists, stuff like that. We can just do it with 4 variables, because these don't have to sync. Okay, these 3 are what we care about syncing over the network. So that's the read data. Let's close this and this, and this has to do with the local player, which we'll see in just a bit. Okay, so that's for the on client and the lobby. We'll see the next of, well, basically these 2 variables a little bit later. On start local player, okay, setup player is basically this one. You can have this entirely in here and it won't make a difference. So if he is not the server, every player is going to start as he's ready to begin. So if the server hits play or starts the game, then everybody is going to play. We get our own profile that we have stored locally inside, that we have stored locally, and we're going to use get sync player. So what this is going to do is going to create a new sync player, and that's what basically responsible into creating the whole sync string we're going to do. Okay, so it's just going to take the profile we have over here. You can separate your profiles into a multiplayer profile and a single profile, okay, which is probably a good idea, but in this case we don't really care. Let's just use one profile. Okay, player profile. You have your main weapon. You have for every mode you have saved on your profile, weapon modes. Okay, you are going to be adding it with // the same thing for the secondary weapon, and we're just simply returning that. Okay, and this we are not over here, we're over here. So basically we assign the two synced variables, main weapon and secondary weapon. Okay, that means all our stuff they are now packed, and of course the next thing we need to do is assign also our own variables. We have the local variables. Okay, so this we assign them with the correct IDs. We also pass the model because we also need to. We fix the player name, and then we are doing a broadcast a player. So what we are broadcasting is our own connection ID, our player name, our model ID, and the main weapon sync and the secondary weapon sync. Okay, and then we are adding our own character to the lobby. We are also adding, we are creating our own multiplayer character, which is of course is the local one, and if he is the server, we are also going to enable the start button. Okay, so that's the tricky part, and now of course we have to see a few more things. From over here right now we are making sure that we are well, let's see the broadcast player also. Okay, command broadcast player. We just run the RPC. We have your player ID, your name, your model, your main weapon, and your secondary weapon. On the RPC, if you are the local player, then don't do anything, return. Otherwise, you have your main weapon sync, you have it over here, you create a new one. We're basically just creating the sync player to pass that into the read data, and the read data is going to basically break apart our IDs, and it's just a matter of assigning them. As you can see, model, main actual, secondary actual, and our modes. We're adding a new entry into the lobby player, and of course we are creating again a load multiplayer character. So yeah, it's there's three places you are initializing players inside your lobby. One is the RPC, one is if you're the local player, and one is when a client enters the lobby. Okay, it's just well, it's that simple, but yeah, you have to know a little bit how your net works to do all this. So let's see what we're using this and passing it through the multiplayer sync. So basically, as we said in a previous video, we have on our network manager, we also have a new function over here. Get a local player is basically looking through your list of local players, and if he's the local player, he's going to return that local player or that lobby player. Okay, it's going to come in handy later. So yeah, over here is what we actually need. So basically, on lobby service in load for player, you have your lobby player and your game player. It still stands what I said before, that your lobby and the game player will both run their own start behaviors. Okay, so that means every initialization will have to go after the start you have on your scripts. Okay, so what we are doing is we're loading our multiplayer sync. We have our lobby player. Okay, so we're just passing the variables we have over here. And for the multiplayer sync, it goes again that the main weapon and secondary weapon are the syncs, so it's what we are syncing over the network. It's the packed IDs. Although if you are passing a weapon that doesn't have any modifications, okay, then you can use that as an ID, but yeah, just don't use it. And here's where the actual IDs we're going to be using that don't have to sync over the network. It's just this two unpacked. Okay, all these are sync variables. If they aren't, then they're not going to sync, basically. Where I was, okay, level name, model ID, main weapon, secondary weapon. Read data is going to do the same thing as the read data we have into our lobby player, but right now you can't just get your main weapon, which you have over here. Okay, split it apart, add the main ID, and add the mods, etc. Okay, it's very simple. The idea is really simple. It just means you are just instead of passing one string at a time, you just pack everything into one and then break it apart. And as I said, if you don't have huge names, then you won't really have any problems. Of course, you don't want to sync 1,000 items like this. Okay, and yeah, the rest is pretty much the same. When you are if you are the local player, then you are simply initializing as you will normally do. The local player will get from the profile the weapons you are using, so you don't really have to worry about anything else. You have your level name. Well, the level name now is going to be synced, so this won't really be a problem. Okay, you have your coroutine, you have all your scenes, you're loading them, and then you are initializing the player controller. Okay, that's pretty much everything you need to know, and it loads everything. For the dummy player, delete init dummy, which is, let's hit Control M-O, delay the init. Okay, after the delay we have, if you want to be, there's a few more calls that can run this after you are making sure that the server has loaded the scene and stuff like that. It's entirely up to you how you want to do this. And okay, init dummy controller, we're doing everything, but as a final check, we're also going to do before we actually initialize the dummy controller, we're going to run the read data. Okay, so just in case that this hasn't yet populated all this, we just want to be sure that we're not going to passing empty strings over here. We're just calling read data again, and then we're initializing. So in here to also load the modes, you can see that we also have added two new lists. Okay, for our modes, and we are passing them, and when we are loading the weapons, again we are passing the list. Okay, and when you are also creating the weapons, you can also add one more call with a list of our strings, and basically you just have to, on your hook model, you just need to assign your active modes. Okay, add range modes. Okay, so the reason why it's so simple, it's because, well, we took the time and set up all the, we created a system this way so that it's also easy to add all this with just simple lines. Okay, and from there the weapon model hook will just do its job. We've seen that in many videos ago. Okay, so that's far how the multiplayer basically sync. With this is also going to sync you your weapon mods, your weapons, your models, all stuff like that. And yeah, we didn't actually add anything new over here. So the next thing we need to also see is basically our loadout scene. To go to the loadout, Let's hit play. Okay, multiplayer, create match, create, and you click loadout. Okay, and we have a loadout scene. And when we click back, we're going to be loading everything up. So on the loadout menu we have over here, or the menu button, we have, let's see, we have our canvas with our weapon mode, and on the loadout menu we have, if you go to menu, not menu, lobby room menu, loadout. Okay, on the button we have a script called loadout UI, which is just this thing. Okay, open loadout UI, and here's what we're going to use everything. UI manager, well, you could just drop it in the UI manager, it doesn't really matter. So what this is going to get you, your UI manager. It's going to see, it's going to close the multiplayer canvas, it's going to open the weapon mode UI, the game object, the mode scene references, okay, and the actual canvas, so we can actually see this this scene. And then it's going to create a new carrying weapons. It's going to go on your lobby and find the local player, and then it's going to just create you know, a mode with container. So just going to assign your weapon ID, your active weapon. Okay, we're just going to hardcode the rig type as well, just to default. Resource manager, okay, get weapon, weapon ID for the active weapon, that is. Okay, both for the secondary and the main, and it's just going to add it into the carrying weapons, and you're going to call the initialization for your mode scene references, and that's going to be almost exactly the same as we had it in the previous videos, for that has to do with mode scenes. Okay, but I'm going to add 3 new variables, which is previous position, previous rotation, and previous field of view, because on my main menu I have it, you know, on my camera I have a different field of view, so that it's a little bit more dramatic, you can call it that. So this is responsible in placing also the camera, and what I'm doing is basically just saving the previous position, rotation, and the field of view, and setting it up to what I want. Okay, if we close this, and everything else stays exactly the same, so there's no need to actually cover everything except the back button. So when you are pressing the back button on your mode scene UI, if it's a multiplayer season, okay, if it's a single player, then we're just doing whatever we're doing. If it's multiplayer, then we're going to get a local player again, and we're going to call this new function, which is called pass weapon values to sync, okay, which we're passing the current weapons we're holding, and then it's going to be responsible into syncing that over everybody and over the network. Okay, and we reset our camera, everything back to where it was, and then we are also closing the loadout UI. Let's see this. Okay, and all it does is finds again your UI manager, enables the multiplayer canvas, and closes everything else, everything we opened over here basically. Let me remove the bookmarks. So on our lobby player, which we are over here, pass weapon values to sync, we are passing the carrying weapons. Okay, well, this is just to know that we have a mode, so we don't need it. So all it does is going to find you your profile. Of course, you can only change your own weapons. Okay, you cannot change the weapons of somebody else over the network, so everything is handled locally. Before we update everything over here, we simply are going to update our player profile. Okay, we have main weapon, secondary weapon, clear. We add range, yeah, we basically just add all this. One more function I've added is on our weapons with mode container. I've added one more function. It's basically just taking all of this and adds them into a single an array over here, or you can just return the list. I have this as an array, but I ended up essentially just using it as a list. Okay, doesn't matter, just do whatever you want or handle it however you want. It just works. So, okay, don't forget to clear any previous modes you have, otherwise you're going to have all your modes together and it's going to only take the first mode in the list, okay, for each type. Okay, after we have updated our profile, we save our profile. Okay, again, as I said, you can separate your profiles for network or single player. Okay, it's not going to be a big deal, just create a new player profile and use get profile network. And this just all it does, it just returns your active profile. Okay, we save the profile and then we're using again sync player, which basically just creates our sync values, and we are updating our own values as well, and we are calling one last time broadcast player CMD broadcast player. Now the secondary weapon, I probably forgot to add something for the secondary weapon sync. I'm not going to do a video with a fix. Okay, it's the same idea as the main weapon sync. So if you just start working with one, it's going to be easy to fix the second one as well. So as you can see, we're basically just updating our values, we're updating our model, and then we're broadcasting the player, and we're using on our main menu manager we're calling the singleton, and then we're doing a load multiplayer character. This, and of course we are also updating, it's the local player, so we need to update this one as well. So let's go on to our add lobby, and then we're going to see add lobby player and then load multiplayer character. Add lobby player, it's on the network manager. We were doing a few different things over here. Like this, we don't use this anymore, you can delete it. So basically, when you are adding a lobby player, you have your lobby player, it's going to check if there is another lobby player with the same network ID. Then it's just not going to do anything. That means you are updating something and you don't want a new game object into your lobby scene. Okay, otherwise create a new lobby player info class. Okay, assign your lobby player and add your UI element, initialize it also, and initialize the player UI, and of course add your lobby player in there. Very simple, very clear. Let's move on to the main menu manager, or well, the load multiplayer character inside our main menu manager. Go to definition. We're passing the lobby player, and if he's local, it's going to first thing it's going to do is going to see if there is already inside your players list over here. Okay, and it's going to check for a character, or well, an entry that has the same network ID. If he finds one, it's going to destroy the previous player model and it's going to remove him from the list, because that means you're probably updating somebody, so you don't want multiple, and we can have a debug log, okay, removing a duplicate. And then we're creating a new player's model holder. We're assigning his player ID, or well, the connection ID. Okay, target, position, rotation, all these are very simple. Instantiating the model, pretty much everything goes the same as we had it before. We are initializing with our actual ID, okay, not the sync. These are the broken up IDs, as you can see: main actual, secondary actual, our main weapon modes, and our secondary weapon modes. If he's local, then we're also assigning him on the local we have over here, the local class. Okay, and depending on if he's local or not, we're either going to set him active or not. Okay, so player add, and we're just adding it over here. Because we did a few changes over here, we also need to change the load character. It's almost the same as it was before. We just create a new player models folder. Okay, we have your player ID, because we are using the script into the main menu as well. So we get a target character ID, we have our character ID. Let's just, if the container is null, then just in case this returns null, it's going to return you your boxman, or well, your first character. If you're having problems, if you change IDs or something like that in the resource manager, then just simply change this to something else, or well, one default ID you might want to use, or a default character. Okay, you save your profile, and then everything else is going to run smoothly as it was before, and we can just initialize directly from our player profile main weapon, secondary weapon, and so on and so on. Okay, and you can use this to remove any previous player, so you don't have duplicates inside your list, although this is only for the single player, so you pretty much won't really have that much problems. Okay, and all this is pretty much set. So we have, for the most part, also don't forget to assign on your lobby player UI to get the proper IDs. Okay, this is the thing that goes from over here, this guy's over here. Okay, to have your proper player IDs. And yeah, I've mistakenly added something else inside the player ID, or forgot to got it, and spent whole day to, you know, just find why the players the connection IDs didn't sync, and all it was, I just had forgotten to add this. Okay, that's one. Let me see, let me go over my bookmarks, and I think current player, I'm not actually even using this. Yeah, I'm not even using this, so you can remove this. This is basically just another way to get the local player, but I'm not using it. Just use get local player, and you won't have any issues. Lobby player UI. I'm not initializing the lobby player UI anymore over here. And I think for the most part we might be finished. Yeah, we say on create weapons. Okay, deactive the add range. We have it over here, main menu animator, where you're creating your weapons. Let's see, weapon mode seen. We've seen this also. The back button, basically sync everything. Get all modes, we've seen that. Loadout UI, we also seen this. And the other things I think are not really necessary. This is just a simple script in case I want to, well, I've just added this on the weapon mode. I think it was the weapon mode scene. Oh, on the canvas. Okay, just to make sure that it's not destroyed and it's not under another game object. It's not really anything, because when you are changing scenes we still want to keep the canvas, but because I want to be able to close it, to disable it and enable it. Okay, of course, if you disable a game object, you're not going to use the singletons to find it again. So this is just a way to, you know, to do not destroy my canvas. And yeah, the other things, I think they are just irrelevant. Oh, actually, this wasn't that much irrelevant. This is because we have the animator state behaviors into our animator, and when this is the dummy, when you are calling something inside the dummy, it's going to try and run this behavior. So what I did is it's only going to run the behaviors we have over here if it finds a state manager. Okay, if it doesn't find the state manager, then that means it's the dummy. It's a dummy object, so just simply it's going to return and just going to do its own thing. And the same thing for the on-state exit, although from what I've seen is that I don't even really use it. But just to be safe, you can say that you can do another check over here. If state is null, then simply return if you want to be entirely safe. Okay, and well, over here what I see is, yeah, all lobby player, setup player. We shown this. So let's hit play again, and well, let's just create this one as the host for whatever reason. Create, and I'm going to go on my loadout. Let's select an AKM. Let's do a hollow site, and I'm going to open the other guy. Well, it's just a coincidence that they have the same weapon. Okay, doesn't have to do with the profile. The profiles are saved locally into its own data, so they're not sharing the same. I'm just going to use the Boxman Blue or whatever, multiplayer, join the game. We have our local player, and if I go over top of the other, we have the other guy. I'm going to go into my loadout scene. Let's select an M4 and let's go with an iron sight. Okay, the other guy is that one. Over here, okay, we have our modes, and of course the bug still persists. As you can see, it's enabled over here, but you know, Unity has its own ideas of what game object is enabled and what isn't. So, but you can see that on our lobby players, everything is synced up fine, except the second weapon. That's okay. We don't really care for that. So click start. Somebody feels happy, and we can see that we've synced both the weapon and his weapon, well, his mode. If I select the other one, okay, he has the hollow sight, and he also has his weapon. That's it. We finished with a lobby, almost. Okay, quote unquote, because as I said, we need to. You can just make it a little bit more optimized to sync instead of syncing integers. Okay, but yeah, for the purposes of the video and this, where it's finished, so we can just focus on making all the multiplayer scene. And now he goes, for some reason, he moves. Maybe there are ghosts in the machine, or ghost in the cell, ghost in the unit, I guess. Anyway, okay, so right now, or well, not right now, on the next videos we're going to sync, we're going to create a new IK system that's going to be lightweight, and it's going to be only for the dummy controllers, and well, we will probably use that as well for enemies and stuff like that. So that's it. We're finally done with the lobby. You know what to do. Like, subscribe. If you like to share it, it helps a lot. The other way you can support me is either through Patreon, okay, which you also have the chance to see the videos much earlier than when they go live. Also, depending on your tier pledge, then you can also have a few more additional rewards, and everything just helps me keep making all of this stuff, because yeah, this is months and months of work. Okay, the other way of course you can support me is by grabbing a project or two from Gumroad, including this one. Okay, and I'll see you on the next one.